Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Paladins Premier League. I am here with my good friend Gore.
Hi.
Well, welcome, you guys. Welcome, you guys. We're currently about to go into PK versus Kanga. PK, unfortunately, was down a man yesterday, Vapor being the one to sub for Ricotta, but Ricotta's back today, though.
And that's going to be crucial for them, right? I mean, it was one of those things, like I was talking to Cuss about it a little earlier. He was saying that even on his deathbed, he would bet that Ricotta would be a better DPS than he would. So having him back, obviously, it's important. Ricotta, even though the rest of the guys have been around the scene for a long time, is primary in-game leader from what we've talked about. I think they've said G-Bunny stepped up. Cuss has been a leader in the past, so it's not that big of a deal if he's missing in terms of communication, but it's really nice to have like the main voice come back for them, as well as just a tried and true DPS, right? Cuss was okay yesterday on Lex. Ricotta's going to blow things out of the water in comparison, right? It's just he's almost always been this consistently great player, and so having him back should just kind of elevate the entire squad.
Yeah, I agree. I really think that having a fully functional PK will be something really interesting to see, especially now after their loss against NIP. Like with 4-3.
Yeah.
It was a really, really close game. But now that they're back, I'm going to take a look at the standings real quick and show you guys what we have going on right now. NIP still in first. Na'Vi following up with a close second. Third is Envy, SSG, Virtus Pro, Kanga, PK, Renegade, so on and so forth.
And you're going to be looking at this one being kind of the 6 versus 7 matchup. And, you see the -6, the -26. There's 20 maps that do separate these two teams because of how deep that losses, I guess, were during Split 1. But it's really not indicative of what we're seeing out of these teams right now. I mean, Kanga, as they just choke. I mean, you look at it last week, like when you look at them versus Renegades, they were up 3-1. Then they were up 3-2. Like they were on the cusp of winning a set for so long, and they just couldn't close it out. They just have that difficulty getting over that edge, like when the nerves kind of kick on. And when you see NIP and Knights going 4-3, when you see VP getting 4-1 by the Knights, and yesterday, I mean, like even though they were down a guy, it's still looking pretty competitive against Na'Vi. Like you're starting to look at Kanga maybe having a little bit more sweat running down their backs.
Yeah, and one player that always comes to mind whenever it is, I think, a PK, especially like with two new additions, is Simsalute, for sure. I always think about him as a player, him with his performance, one of the core damages for their team next to Ricotta.
And these two guys that you see on your screen, not only Simsalute, but Evil Eye on the other side for Kanga, this is probably going to be the most important matchup of this set. Is just how these two play, whether or not they're being impactful, and how much room they are either giving or taking away. Because Evil Eye is in this position, the flexibility that he's been able to show, it's been a little bit more leaning on Maeve lately, a little bit more leaning on some Willow we've seen, but his typical blaster pool has been cut down a little bit more. I mean, his Eevee's still always going to be solid, but it's not, okay, I can play Drogo's Bomb King, Willow, and the Maeve, and the Eevee, and look fine on all 5. It's definitely felt a little more tricky, I would say, for him, whereas Simsalute, I still don't think I've seen him not necessarily have a performance. I mean, even his worst so far has just been an average game. We're going to have to see how that goes today. A lot of the pick and ban phase is probably going to be, not necessarily centered around these guys, but their picks are going to be crucial in terms of finding a victory in this set.
Yeah, and I mean, I always think about just in general, like, because PK, we saw the interview with Ricotta where he was talking about, like, like maybe they could end up being really, really well, pretty strong contenders just in general. But like give them like a month and a half and they'll be where it is they need to be. But already we're seeing pretty substantial progress from them just from PK, just with the addition of Simsalute and Zerini.
And that's the thing, like Zerini, and this is what I was saying when they announced that they were dropping Dethrone or when they announced they were dropping Payan, it was just like both of those guys have a ton of potential behind them. But the problem is that in the Premier League, you can't really work with the potential you have. You have to be there. Zerini's already there. Simsalute's already there. You get them, and it's an immediate improvement just because they already have that experience behind them. They're already ready to play, and as they've shown, they will absolutely take this team and continue pushing it further forward. I am excited to see where they are.
Yeah, I'm excited for that as well. We're going to take a look at the map bans real quick and see what they have in store. Bright Marsh and Splitstone Quarry will be the first maps it is that we see for PK and Kanga respectively, followed by Frozen Guard, Ice Mines. That's pretty, for these two teams, I think that makes a lot of sense.
And honestly, when it comes down to it, actually, if I look over towards here, Ice Mines has been banned every single time by Kanga. Splitstone Quarry has been banned every single time by Kanga. Like they do not like these two maps. They don't like to go there. And admittedly, when you look at the way these maps flow, it's a little bit longer of a push. It's a little bit more like both of them defensive heavy, but very, very crucial point fight. And admittedly, very difficult to kind of come in. And when you look at the Knights, they have both of those maps. Like, it's almost perfect for their strategy.
Right. And on the flip side of that, despite these bigger maps, the first map we will be starting on is Jaguar Falls. A very, very close quarters, more so you're running into people almost every turn sort of map.
And honestly, this is not only, like you said, close quarters, but anything goes. I mean, I think this is one of the perfect maps to start out on because you can get your feet wet, right? You can just kind of dip your toes in, see the temperature of the water going in. It's the same place we started yesterday when they're going up against Na'Vi. Knights were able to win 4-0 with a sub against a team like Na'Vi. So now you're getting them full force. They're taking away a couple of the picks I think that were crucial, and Na'Vi's draft yesterday on Jag Falls was not the best when it comes down to it. I mean, they needed a little bit more perfect communication, and there was just a couple slip-ups. And Kanga, they're just not going to play that way. They're not going to draft that way either.
Yeah, but Kanga's starting off with the Cassie ban immediately for their first ban. Knights have already opted to ban out the Genos Torvald. It's what you'd more so expect. You don't see Genos as much as you see other, like, you'll see Genos taking priority over frontliners like Atlas, like Makoa. So depending on who Kanga bans, they're leaving open some pretty... Oh, they decided to go for Leon.
Yeah, I like
the Leon ban. Now tell me why that they would go for that. Obviously, it's a targeted ban, but who are they worried about? Is it Ricotta of all people?
Well, we're going to hit Ricotta twice.
Right.
And look what's open. Atlas comes through for the Knights, but that means Kanga is going to guaranteed get Makoa here unless they are doing something wrong. So he should be able to come through with literally whatever pick they want after that. Yeah. They've been favoring Ashe a lot lately, so they have that potential. But again, looking at Simsy, looking at Evil Eye, that's going to play a pretty big part in it, and Maeve is solid on this map.
Yeah, I can see that being the case too. Maeve has a lot of... With her movement comes the ability to position however it is that she feels like, when she feels like, and being able to take advantage of some of those like higher up spots around this map, despite how close quarters it is, will allow her to be able to position effectively. Nice is looking for the Lex pick though, which is something we've been seeing increase slowly in popularity over this PPL split.
Well, could also give them the father-son combo. I don't think there's actually a buff for having them both, but you wouldn't believe it looking at their icons. Lex is Atlas's dad, since Atlas came back from the future. And so it's just interesting to see this. I actually don't know if I've ever gotten to see them both on a single team.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at direct damage and being able to maybe trace Maeve down, both of those champions are going to have very big, meaty shots that can take her out of the sky pretty easily. Granted, this map, there's a lot of line of sight breaks, so Maeve's probably going to be a little bit more swirly, but the same thing goes for Lex. It's kind of matching mobility with mobility. Even though Lex doesn't have as much jump, he does still have a lot of like horizontal speed that can come in with his loadout.
Along with the fact that he has Death Hastens now, which is going to be so impactful in general against, I believe, their team, because he'll be able to maximize on that record, be able to blow up those shields really, really fast, really effectively. They go for the Furia Barrack on Kanga's side, followed by the final two picks of Willow and Maldomba. Now, we see Willow so much on this map, and after this recent patch, like, that makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, just watching what she was able to do yesterday, when you look at last week, if you watch the minor league, Willow, with her ult movement changes, can now not only chase people into buildings, but can maneuver those buildings just as well as if she was running on the ground, right? And that has made a significant difference in how you can play around with her ult. There's not really a safe place to run away. Used to be, okay, you hear Willow ult, just get indoors. Just do whatever you can to find cover over your head, and 9 times out of 10, that saved you. Now, it's not as safe.
Yeah, they decided to lock Drogos as the last character for Kanga. I mean, it makes sense as well. We do see Drogos picked a lot on this map as well as one of the blasters for not necessarily Kanga, but any team that decides to opt for him. Now, I would imagine that's because of like he can actually maneuver around the cover a lot in the high ground. There are a lot of tall buildings. The
biggest question I have is if he goes Worm Jets, is he ready for the assault that's going to come through him? Because Atlas and Lex are probably going to be on dragon hunting duty for this game, so I'm curious as to what talent he really is going to try to play around with.
Well, with both teams locked in, we're going to throw it right down to your casters, and we're going to get this game started.
Appreciate it, fellas. Welcome down into the caster booth for game one of the day. I'm Dolson, of course, joined by Kresnik. on the cast for you today. Fun matchup, fun lineups already. I mean, you get one kind of off tank, and that opens up Makoa, Atlas. No con, though.
Yeah, no, just completely ignored. They had the best off tanks. You know, really, if you can get off tank, point tank on a map where there's so many corners, place you can play around, and the point objective control is so strong, you don't need him. I mean, he sometimes he'll go by when those really strong off tanks like Koa and Atlas just get through.
And with Coach Vapor walking by, he's been benched, unfortunately, today. Looks like Ricotta's back in the driver's seat on the direct damage role over there for the Knights. Obviously a little sick yesterday. Maybe that comes into play here today, but that was a big hinge. I mean, losing Ricotta, that's a big difference maker in a matchup like that, and now maybe a slightly sick Ricotta, that's another difference maker. But I think it gives him a better chance up against Kanga.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully for the Knights, Ricotta kind of backed off a little bit from that in-game leading role. Talks a little less than he used to, so he can kind of just focus all his energy onto doing damage. Watching Bully right now, though, trying to avoid the hit scan pressure from Atlas and Lex. They mentioned before the father-son duo on Dragon Hunting Summer
baffles.
Trip. He's the man out of time.
No, right. I mean, I'm so far out of the lore game that that one was very surprising. Ricotta starting off early here. Nice double kill on the Lex, wrapping around the backside. Evil Eye taking a couple too many plague shots. One more is all Ricotta needs. He's 3 for 3 to start off this game. And it looks like Gara on the backside here for Kang is going to be the last to fall. 51% for the Knights on the back of some strong play from the Lex.
Yeah, I'm not sure with that staggered kill in the Fury if Kanga's going to be able to touch. They have pretty good forward zoning. Hook doesn't find its target. Since Rhino dashed backwards, I think that means Kanga's already kind of conceding it. Barrett might go in, but I feel like that's not going to make anything happen. The Drogo's, he's really easy to ignore on this map, I feel. There's so many tight little rooms you can play inside. The Knights with their Willow, they want to play Simsi on that bridge, so that does, you know, the Drogo's does buy that space for Kanga, where Simsi won't be able to do that comfortably. But still, the Drogos, they can just play inside, rotate to point, back up, and have the Lex focus him. I mean, they have the counters to deal with it. I do find that last pick by Kanga.
And you already see the impact of having Ricotta back in this one. I thought Cuss Cutie did bad yesterday on the Lex.
Cuss Lex Jaguar
I was going to say,
right,
that was their 4-0. That was their 4-0 yesterday, so nothing against that, but you can already see the flashy plays from Ricotta coming back here. Gets Knights on the board first here with an Inflame. Kanga going to try to start off this defense on the right foot. You got to find a way to get G-Bunny uncomfortable on this Atlas because he is so strong on those off tanks. Finally, some respite for Kanga here. They find themselves a good defensive stand with about 1 minute and 35 seconds left. A couple ultimates as well if they really want to push this one. G-Bunny sitting at 4-2, 4-0 for Ricotta. Simsaloo a quiet 0-1-4 though. Joel's kind of the saving grace seemingly for Kanga right now.
Yeah, Barrick's really to defend those confirmed kills. Just being able to clean up on the damage since they don't really have a great diver. I mean, Maeve's better at poking than diving. She can do it, but if you have someone else like a tank that can find those confirms, that's a lot more ideal. Chronic's hitting solid daggers onto Simsi, even through that DR does not matter with that Cat Burglar boost.
That's right.
Really good aggressive defense. I like the Inflame to kind of flip the tide. They're already at 50%, so no real downside in their economy by using it that early.
No, if nothing else, it'll be back up for the next mid-fight. If this one truly lasts just another 55 seconds. Pittsburgh Knights with a bit of a downhill struggle. That's an execute from Ricotta onto Rhino. That's going to buy them a lot of space. No more Makoa clogging up the lanes there in the front line. They just need some other kills anywhere to start falling in their favor, but it doesn't look like it's going to with Jules and Gara answering back with a couple of their own.
Yeah, the Drogos, this is where he's going to be free reigning. I mean, we talked about how easy it is to dodge him on mid, but these are big open fields. He's just going to be raining down from the start. Kind of uncontested. You can see Ricotta's focus trying to take care of him in that fight, almost ignoring the tanks in front of him. Rhino getting set back to here. Surf 5, going to bring him back quite a ways. Simsaloo finds the kill. Knights finally find a footing on this defense after the aggressive defense from Kanga, but they don't have a lot of time. Overtime's going to start ticking away real soon.
5 seconds left. That's a tall task for Evil Eye, especially. I mean, if you want to compare apples to apples, the two blaster players, I should say, with Evil Eye kind of matching up against Simsaloo. That was the pregame matchup we looked at. That's a big, tall task. You got to keep up with one of the I guess technically new, but arguably one of the better blaster players in this league in the form of Simsaloo. Joel's dropping Ricotta is going to spell nothing but success, I think, for Kanga here on their defensive stand, unless Simsaloo's able to trade out, which he's not. So good defense here from Kanga. Honestly, on the back of that Enflame early on, set them up for success here.
Yeah, that Inflame basically bought them a minute after just that one ultimate ball from that. And now both teams, well, Kanga with 5 ultimates. Knights did commit the Fey Flight for that. They used the Law a little bit earlier. Not quite going to get there yet, but Lex does enough damage where that'll charge pretty quickly.
Sure.
But Kanga do have this ultimate advantage, but I just think their composition is worse on these mid fights. I think the Knights have a lot of ways to deal with the bully on these mids. I think they have the better point tank. They have the better pocket healer. Kanga's going to have to find a really solid execute with their ultimates to be able to break that stalwart sustain that the Knights bring.
Well, unfortunately, you have to win at least a mid fight
Yes.
to win the game, and Kanga figuring themselves out again on defense. I think the stats tend to get a little bit more padded in your favor when you're sort of on the defensive end, because the other team's just kind of throwing themselves at you. Joel's keeping up his damage here just behind Evil in this game. Chronix as well on the Maeve, hitting some great daggers up to this point. It's how they use their ultimates now. The Kanga, 5 strong. The Knights used a little bit to try to force that one through. The Midnight, though, is going to start things off for Kanga, following up into the Inflame as well. Dragon Punch from Evil drops off Serini. Can Chronix hit the daggers? Oh, that's a good Dread Serpent. Gets the Maeve out of the air, makes them back off. The Knights only lose 1, and Kanga used so much there. Simsaloo does drop on the back end of the fight, but Kanga used everything and only got a couple kills.
Great rockets by Avoli to get that confirmed on Simsaloo, but Rakata does find the hole. Almost a lot of ultimates used to start that by Kanga. This is going to get deleted. Both shields taken down by the Law. What a new feature that a lot of players honestly didn't even know about when that patch came out. Rakata still pressuring here on the side. Trading onto Zarina, though. That's a lot of point presence out of here for the Knights. Can he disengage? Not if Rhino has anything to say about it, but he's still kiting away. The Lexi can't hit him.
Yeah, look out for the Ancient Rage. Comes tearing right down Main Street. Rakata's able to back off, but a good hook onto G-Bunny. Pulls in the Atlas, and at 90% now for Kanga. The early kind of slow roll, the slow burn from those ultimates, only netting a couple of kills that set themselves up. Good positioning from Kanga throughout the rest of that fight for point number 2.
Yeah, Zarini's unfortunate pick, getting picked off right after that dome shot. That was really hard for the Knights to retake. I think they just didn't have the ability to contest on the point. That's Atlas's biggest weakness, I think, objective control. Because once his cooldowns are down, he's just a sitting duck, as you see right there, with Chronix finding that confirm onto him. I loved the start of that mid by Kanga.
Yep.
That was such a good aggressive start. I mean, Inflame into a Midnight, that is, if they're not ready, if they're not all the way back in their base, that's a one fight almost every time.
Right. I mean, you can't see, and then also you know that they're going to be sprinting at you.
2 luminary marks on the entire team. They're moving at 30% movement speed bonus, and it's so much overwhelming pressure.
A little nervous when I hear all that coming out. Chronix as well. That's another Inflame, actually. Kanga has not let off the gas since winning that mid-fight. A double kill from G-Bunny. Going to stall things out just a little bit, but a double kill from Joel's as well actually keeps the payload moving forward. He has to use Dread Serpent. So the Knights now having to use everything just to try to stay alive. Good shot there from Simpsy onto Eviline. Mid-air shots from the Willow. Rakata, luckily, is able to drop off Joel, so Kanga forced back. But did get a little close there towards the end.
Yeah, Simsaloo's triple air shot on Avoli, honestly, was what turned that fight, I think. Because Avoli was allowed to keep free firing. Not everyone on Knights could deal with him. He had a lot of cover to play, so good on Simpsy for getting that flip. Knights with the defensive advantage. The respawns definitely helped them stabilize there. Simpsy just looking for some spam here. They had to use Dread Serpent. Actually, no, I didn't realize the Dread Serpent went off.
Yeah.
I thought he died before he got it off, so they don't have Dread Serpent, Seismic Crash, or Fey Flight. If Kanga want to use an ultimate to convert this, and it looks like they will, they're going to have an econ advantage going into the next fight, too.
Chronix hitting a couple daggers. This is an important 1v1. Is he able to get Rakata? Is Rakata turn around the kill? The Lex is going to get the better of Maeve this time around, and now he's just free to fire in the back line. Joel's drops. They only use the Midnight. They're able to pull back 1 kill, but Simsaloo hitting some great shots yet again. That's a double kill for the Willow, and Kanga yet again